got this. So in the case that we will, so once he gets that device tested at Manipal Hospital, post that, I think she wants to go hard on the fundraising. Until then, just at least have some conversations. Yes.
Cool. That sounds fine. So about the oximeter, I remember speaking with Abhi about making a video, and I had shared a video with him, which
Yep.
was the good thing about that video is that you don't need it to be translated because it was just a video and somebody shows you how to install the app, how to use it, and how to find your blood oxygen saturation levels.
Yep.
So the last thing I remember, Professor Ramesh mentioned that he already had a website where he was thinking that we could do a pilot of sorts.
Yep.
Has that been done?
So what he's trying to do, or what his thought was, and we'll have to put this on Makers Asylum's website as of now, or
Okay.
on FastCheck's website, either one. FastCheck is also a big foundation now, so either one works. The thought is that one, there is, we tell people, send people, he's gotten permission to be able to message all the Sansom users that you guys can use your pulse ox. The second thing he wants to do is tell them that, yes, now it's a voluntary thing that you can start testing in your village using your device. And in the case that they allow other people to test using their device, what we can do using software is be able to map out and start tracking, which these guys at MIT can do, is map out and start tracking which village in India is becoming a hotbed for COVID before much sooner than any other way. So once we know which place is a hotbed, and just as we know, like more than 5 cases, let's say in a village, the moment that happens, we can send them reinforcements. So Makers Asylum and the M19 collective can then that get activated. And what we will need to do is possibly send them more pulse ox, send them whatever other resources and everything they need to be able to sort of have the right information and the right things with them.
Cool. So are we expecting the owners of these devices to kind of administer the test? Because unlike a proper oximeter, in this case, it's important to make sure that your finger is put a certain way on the sensor. Otherwise, the reading is not perfect.
Correct. So it's going to be more like a voluntary thing where they will have to sign up to be part of this system. So once all the Sansom users will get notified, and they can then out of the 15 lakh people, we can have, let's say, a few lakh people at least become part of the system, and that's a decent number considering that 15 lakh units are in the villages of India. So from there, even if you get like 1 or 2 lakh, let's say 1 lakh people to sign up, or let's say 20,000 people to sign up. That's a great start, because 20,000 people who sign up for a voluntary work where they can, let's say, just act as a node for us. So be able to test over there, and we will get the information automatically because an app will be installed on their phone when they're testing this. Yes.
Great. So, are we then making a video about how to do that, or are we relying on them to know how to use it and then kind of administer the test on?
So right now we're trying to figure this out. So he's trying to figure out a few things as well. So I'll talk to him tonight. I don't think we need to make a video right now. What we need to do is that we need to, he's trying to get some permissions to be able to notify the Samsung users that this exists on your phone. I suggested that maybe we can just float around a message or a video, but he wants to go down the route of getting permissions to be able to send this as an official message to all the Sansom users. So he's doing that. Once he's done that, then we'll proceed. I think I'll do a call with him tonight. Let's,
Makes
yeah,
sense. Cool.
I'll keep you posted on that. Yep. Anything else?
No, that'd be it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anyone else? Any other updates, or anyone wants to say something? Go ahead. So, Gorbachev, now that you're here, I think your sieves are doing much better than the plastic ones for sure for us. Anul, do you want to add anything?
But
Yeah.
are we
Sorry, go ahead, Gaurav.
getting the required LPM
So I think we got around 92 or 95 at 10 LPM. But I think all it needs is a bigger sieve, because it's just about 1 kilo zeolite per sieve right now. But if we pump it up to 1.5 kilos, I'm sure we can get the higher LPMs too.
Okay, so do we need like a wider, better, like more ID or like more length?
Either, I mean, taller or wider. Wider makes more sense because the
Wider
size.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I don't know. This was a 60 tube or a 50.
I think 60, I guess.
Okay, so you can bump it up to 75, I guess, or 80, whatever the next size.
That will become a little problematic. We need to figure out a different way to make the caps. So probably we'll have to like CNC it and use that tie mechanism then, because the lathe we will not be able to turn it with like normal lathe machine. We'll need a bigger lathe then, bigger die. So
Okay, how was the current made? The present one?
sorry.
How is the current cap made? Using a lathe or using a milling?
It's lathe and milling both.
Yeah, so if you have a milling, you can just make a circular cap and flatten two sides, to get a way to wrench it.
No, okay. I think we can figure that out. No worries. Yeah.
I can send you a sketch or something. I mean, basically make the machining as simple as possible, so it doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
As long as the machining is simple, it can be replicated anywhere in the country. That'll be awesome. And the other thing,
Just one thing to add. So one thing which I observed. Okay. So the zeolite exhaust. I mean, not the exhaust. The regeneration side. The exhaust air is hot. I mean, it's not hot, but it has some temperature to it. Not on the not on the purge side, but on the regeneration side. If you put your hand, you can feel the temperature going up when you bump up the cycle. And I don't know if that has any correlation because of aluminum being used and the heat dissipation and anything, but just that one thing I noticed.
Oh,
that's also because the zeolites, right? It's in a they get hot at the beginning. Yes, but and water.
Yeah, I mean the industrial ones use metal containers, right? So I don't think the metal being a sieve is an issue here. For sure.
Karbaja, another thing to try out, if you can try out on your lathe or milling machine, is that in the case that the body, instead of aluminum pipe, we use PVC pipe, the end caps are then machined.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something we can try it out. Yeah, sure.
I mean, threading the PVC pipe should be pretty easy. So if we can thread a 3-inch pipe, schedule 80, then all we need to do is make the caps. That makes life so much more easier for everyone.
Right. So in fact, we have those caps, right? I mean, we just need to thread it, and then no, it will be like small. Yeah, I think we'll have to make a different cap. Yeah, but I think I can try out.
Yeah, let's get on a call tomorrow. I have a couple of ideas on how we can simplify this whole thing. Basically, boiling down to just using aluminum end caps. Everything else being PVC.
That will
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So PVC and metal, whenever they combine, basically if the metal is heated up too much, there will be a little bit distortion in PVC, and that will lead to air being sucked out. Because I have an issue with that whenever I am delivering hot water to the students, I cannot use this combination. So maybe this will be happening over here as well. Maybe we should either it's metal or either it's on PVC, not combination of both.
So, yeah, I mean, I had some other ideas on that. I mean, basically using a gasket to seal it off, so that it doesn't rely on the threads to create the seal, but rather a gasket to
So
create the seal.
the other thing is, there was some person from Mumbai. His name was Arnold. He was in touch. He was saying we can basically mold complete sieve. I mean, like we can get it molded based on whatever the size is.
We can do a lot of stuff like that. But at this point, I think
Yeah.
keeping it simple is the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
And the other thing it should be is that it should be decentralized in a way so that other people can also,
Yeah.
make it. If it's a
Making
machine,
a die means
there are
it
enough lathe
becomes,
machines.
yeah, making a die means it again becomes centralized. One person has the, making the stuff. So then it's no longer decentralized. So that's an issue.
Will you be having any luck using the PVC or ROs?
Yeah, I mean, like we're getting almost like today I was optimizing system to get 20 LPM at 95 plus. At 20 LPM, I'm getting about 90%. So I'm sort of tuning system now. Today, the main thing that we were doing at the Bangalore lab at Fractal was to sort of create the structure and fit everything in. So I think it's really a function of one thing to note though is my sieve pressure is going to about 3 to almost touching 4 bars. That is when sort of I'm getting the most out of the PVC sieves. And zeolite again functions under pressure. The more pressure you can give it, the more nitrogen it absorbs. So even the timing cycles you need to keep adjusting until, so that how do you get from 0 to 3-4 bar as fast as possible, stay at that there as much as possible, and then change over as fast as possible. So more or less, I think it's a function of the LPM also, how much air you are able to pump in and how fast you can get in, because it seems like from 0 to almost 1.5 bars is not really doing much, but after 1.5 bars is when it's actually sort of that is when the spike of oxygen is increasing. So yeah, the PVC sieves work, that much I can attest to.
And what about RO?
I'm not too sure about RO, but another thing that to note that today the 2 sieves that I have are producing different amounts of oxygen. So I realized that I had, again, instead of springs, I'm using steel wool, the Scotch-Brite steel wool. I packed one lesser on the other. So it's really also a function of how pressurized, how much packing you can put, how much pressure you can put on the zeolite. So the RO canisters, I don't think you can, I mean, you figure out a way differently to pack it all up, but you need to really, really get in there and pack up the zeolite to function as efficiently as possible.
I have done a perfect packing of that. I don't have a perfect zeolite, but yeah, I've done a perfect packing of that. Once I have a zeolite, I can do it. Let me wait for a week now. I am waiting for my zeolite.
This nitroxy 5 is what I'm using. That seems to be working fine. There's somebody that contacted me again, somebody in Ghaziabad that is supposedly making sodium 13X that is much better than nitroxy 5 he's claiming. So this is something that I'm wondering about, and I'm getting a batch of zeolite from him to see whether the claims are true or not. But he's claiming it to be better than nitroxy 5, and it's 400 rupees per kg. I just got to know about this few minutes back actually. So I'll see about this again. Zeolite definitely is a problem. There's so many different types, so many different manufacturers, who's good, who's bad. So far, I can only attest to sort of nitroxy 5 because that's what we've used back in Goa. That works here also. It works. Some of the stuff that I used when even packing is after it's packed, I seal the top. Before it's packed, I put vacuum from Niche. I have a small 760 HG a vacuum, not a vacuum cleaner, a vacuum pump, and you can actually see the zeolite sink as it's drawing vacuum up. So even just putting pressure is not enough. I've even like vacuum sealed it so that it's like taken out all the air. Even after I've packed it, closed it up, I've vacuumed it again just to make sure the zeolite is as tightly packed as possible.
Okay, I also did the same thing. I also use the vacuum. I use a vacuum cleaner with a cloth in front of them so that the zeolite doesn't go inside.
I'm not too sure how much a vacuum cleaner will do really. I mean, you really need to create a lot of pressure in it.
Yeah, I so used a balloon between the pneumatic and the vacuum seal. So I was able to suck in all the air, and basically I had a almost basically it decreased the height of the zeolite by almost 3/4 inch when I
Yeah, I mean,
vacuumed
if
it.
you're seeing that, then yeah, it's working.
Vijay, valuable inputs. What is the CFM of the compressor that you're using, right?
I will let you know. This was again. This is sort of the entry level vacuum pump. It comes over 7,000, 8,000 IREX karke on
Okay.
Amazon.
I think 2.5 CFM probably, right?
Yeah, probably. It goes to about again goes to 500, 600 mmHg maximum. So it's sort of run it for a while. Again, I use the same compressor also to same vacuum pump to also charge the zeolite. So I basically took a pressure cooker, put all the zeolite inside the pressure cooker where the CT is, connected that to a pipe, and sucked out all the air while the zeolite is heating. So I just did this so that again, like I pull all the stops and make sure that everything works. You should also read about the temperature swing absorption. I was looking at the data sheet. Basically, this zeolite can be used for both pressure swing as well as temperature swing. Temperature swing, basically, you heating up the zeolite and it starts releasing the nitrogen. So that's basically what you do with releasing the nitrogen by heating it up. So if you want to charge zeolite, you think it's moist, all of that, you heat it up, it should be able to sort of get back its capabilities.
So isn't pressure heating it up? Like when you increase the bar, I mean, like it's indirectly heating it up inside the
True,
tight
yeah, for
space.
sure. When you do the temperature swing adsorption, right? It is at 120, 130. So that's when it's really like taking in a lot of nitrogen. Sorry, it releases the nitrogen, then you sort of cool it down to room temperature really fast, and then it starts dropping back. So that temperature differential from whatever room to 120, 130 is what the temperature swing does. Again, the entire point is that zeolite, when you heat it up, it will start removing off the nitrogen. So if you have a doubt about your zeolite being dead and not performing, again, I recommend heating it up. If you can connect it to a vacuum also, that sort of improves the efficiency of it. And right off the bat, we were getting after doing this, we were getting 90% plus. And right now, I just had to figure out the flow rate versus the acceptable oxygen reading.
Thanks, man.
I mean, if nobody else has updates, the machine here is coming out really well. Again, need to get again, documentation is definitely pending. There's a lot of things that we're learning while we're doing it. So I opened and closed the zeolite sieve multiple times today. Zeolite goes everywhere. So definitely, I think in terms of the end caps, in addition to sieve, that 3-ply. I was using 3-ply mask basically as a additional in addition to the mesh. That is not good enough. We need to use something else. I'm thinking of using Scotch Brite, the normal green wala Scotch Brite, in addition to all of that, to make sure that क्या बोलते हैं, the zeolite doesn't go all over the place. Another thing is NaBl. Since more or less consistently we're getting oxygen. Today, somebody from again I got in touch with somebody from NaBl, where again they won't give full certification, but basically they'll certify that the machine produces a certain amount of oxygen. So if we get this NaBl certification for the M19 oxygen concentrator, I think that will be a big deal. So that is sort of the next big step for me. Again, there are also hospitals in line to test it. But I think like the conversation I had with you, Gopashev, in the morning about heating the compressor, that is something that I'm worried about to get it medically certified. But at least in terms of certifying that it's outputting a certain amount of oxygen at a certain flow rate, this is something that I'm going to get done by NABL. And sort of, yeah, that will add a lot of credibility to what we're doing.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear that. I think that will really help as a starting step.
Right.
Go ahead, Anul. Dipesh.
Vijay, that would actually be some lab, right? Because NABL doesn't do any certifications. They certify the labs that do the testing. So
I'm not sure. So basically, there's somebody from Enable that I'm getting in touch who's going to certify the. I don't know how exactly it works. I'll get more details. Again, all of this sort of came from a
the way
call.
it works is NABL is just an accreditation body, and their job is just to certify the labs based on ISO IEC standards. So per se, they really don't have any test facilities, nor are they supposed to actually do any testing or calibration.
Okay, so I'll just check with this person about what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
so most likely, if it's in Bangalore, it's likely like someone like TUV or Intertech who has the NABL accredited facility to certify your O2 concentration level.
Like,
So
I think
the
yes,
lab,
somebody.
the lab
I
you're
think
talking about-
BIS. Somebody from. I think the BIS is going to. I think BIS is in Bangalore.
BIS is, BIS has in Pina, they have an office. Southern
Right.
Regional-
Yes. He mentioned BIS. So I think they'll test it at BIS and then they'll get it enabled accredited.
Yeah, that makes more sense because BIS Pina is NABL accredited. So whatever certificate they issue, they'll have an NABL accreditation logo on it.
Okay, brilliant.
And,
Okay,
that
that's
makes
probably
it-
what's happening.
Yeah, that makes it acceptable wherever you want to use it and stuff like that. Yeah.
On this note, Anul, is ARAI any of use?
ARAI might be of use because they might have some really nice oxygen measurement analyzers for sure. Although whether those analyzers can go up to 90-95%, I'm not sure.
Okay,
Because for automobile use, it may be limited to the lower ranges, but it's worth asking them.
I can do that. So I should be able to get back to
Vijay,
that tomorrow.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
If you have an oxygen analyzer and you
Mhm.
get that calibrated at a NABL facility,
Okay,
then that becomes your standard. Okay.
got it.
Against that NABL accredited oxygen analyzer, you can then certify your own oxygen concentrator.
Fair enough.
So that's another path, Vijay, you can also check out. It's
Right.
much easier to bring a small instrument to a lab and get it certified than take the whole off ticket.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, sorry to digress, but this is my regular day job. So I get involved when it comes to calibration and certification, stuff like that.
Right.
That's really important. That's a good learning, I think, for everyone. And that makes a lot of sense. If there is a way to take the device and get that certified, that would make it much easier because then we can take it around all the labs if we need to.
Absolutely.
And especially, I think the NIST certified device that we're getting might be able to get that quickly.
Which is why I insisted on that, Vaibhav, if you remember. Once you have an NIST certified analyzer, you can self-certify your own product.
Oh.
So you guys are importing it from US then?
Yeah, it's supposed to be on the way, I think.
And the oxygen analyzer that you guys got from Delhi, is it certified? Do they have any certification for calibration?
It didn't even come with a user manual. It showed a couple of errors today. We had no idea what those errors were.
So I shouldn't.
Eventually, the errors went away. But 99% it is exactly the same as what we built. It uses a OOM sensor with a phono jack. It's got a little
Right.
display, LCD, and some 3 buttons on it. And
I
it
shouldn't
has
bother.
a 3D printed stand for it, which is like you can.
So I shouldn't bother getting one of those, right? I mean, it doesn't make
No,
sense.
it's not worth that 28,000 for sure. It's exactly
Then
the same as
probably-
what we built for 6,000.
Right. Then probably you guys can certify me when you
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
NIS.
For sure.
The
Yeah,
best-
which is, I mean, once you say you have a fluke analyzer, I think all discussion stops, at least in those kind of circles. I mean, those devices are bound to be like pretty accurate.
Yes, let's hope we get that soon. Dipesh, you have anything to add?
No, not really.
Dipesh, you wanted to say something? Okay, no.
On a different point, Vijay, what is the ambient when you were doing your test? Temperature, humidity, and
Ambient
stuff?
temperature. Okay, I'm not too sure. Hold on. I think just check the temperature
What
in
is Bangalore
Bangalore.
like generally?
What was Bangalore? This was about 25 this afternoon.
25 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
And
Bangalore
RH?
nice and cool.
And RH?
RH was about, wow, okay, fine. It rained today, so it's 90% humidity.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but 25 is pretty good because then your dew point is pretty low as well.
Right, right. The that yellow Hydent the Hydent moisture
Moisture
separator we're using, that's pretty damn good. It's nice, compact,
Does it have
and
auto drain?
it has an auto drain. So auto drain is a separate unit. It works like it has a little bob float. After it reaches a certain value, just flushes all out. So that's damn neat.
Like a flush.
Okay, so are we putting the Hydent one before the Micron filter or like after the Micron?
So one is whether the Micron filter. So I have the cooling coil. The cooling coil is then going to Hydent, then going to my yeah, high pressure regulator, which has a filter in it. Again, it's not a Micron filter. I think it's got a 25 micron filter. That's the standard one that comes, not the 10 micron filter. But I was measuring the humidity from the output. It's coming to about 25-30%. And again, 25-30%, the zeolite seems to be like fine with that much humidity.
Yeah, I measured around the same today. I think our ambient was around 85 or so today. And what was going into the sea was around less than 30, around 27-28%
Yeah,
RH.
same. So I think that should be the acceptable range for the air that's going into the zeolite.
On that note, just quickly, Krishna is over here. Krishna, are you sending us the separator?
Yes, so it's packed and ready, but we are not able to send because there are no courier services here. And Sudha's trying to help me with the logistics. Yeah,
Yeah, this like national lockdown is one pain in the ass.
exactly. It's just not been able to send,
Yeah, Megal Salem guys, I've dispatched whatever I could find. Some stuff I couldn't, but I'll tell you what I found and what I didn't found. Majority of the valves and all is there. The 10 micron filter again couldn't find that he says he'll get it from Coimbatore and then ship. So that's not available here.
Okay. All right, let's see
Okay,
how.
so I can ship most of the walls and all the connectors because there's a shop just like 10 minutes away from the lab here, and that guy pretty much has all genetics and pesto and everything. I was going to get the list price from him, but I don't know whether if somebody requires only, then I'm going to bother with it. Otherwise, so let me know.
The one thing that I definitely miss about Bombay.
Yeah, I mean, Bombay.
To everything so quickly. Like we were in the middle of this amazing Andheri East where everything is available.
Exactly. And that's the exact reason why I didn't want to come to Goa when you guys asked.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Absolutely. I agree. That's the only thing I miss, that access and the speediness. Apart from that, nothing really. But
the only thing I'm short of is like hands-on field. I mean, like I only wish if I had a couple of more folks on the lab. I mean, we could speed things up.
Orba, actually for that, let's just activate your Bombay individuals, right? If you need some volunteers, we have a lot of folks in Bombay which can spread the word. So just let me know what you need, and then.
So I need folks on ground at the lab. I mean, I
so
tried.
How many? And what
It'd
kind?
be great if so I mean, like I mean, I currently am in work. I'm there the entire day, but I have to also go out to those things and everything.
Sure.
So if we have at least like 4 people, we can like allocate different things, and I think that will really speed things up. So
Yeah, for sure. We can organize that because I think there are a lot of people from Bombay on the collective as well who are looking to contribute. So we can definitely direct them to you. So we'll work on that tomorrow.
thanks. Yeah.
Okay, so are we good? Is every, I don't know, so just trying to close the call if there is anything else that we are sharing tonight.
I think one last thing is sort
Okay.
of the problem that I am tackling right now, and sort of is the roadblock for me to get it to a hospital, is the heating issue. Like the compressor gets really hot.
Hmm.
Even though with cooling, I was able to run it for a pretty long time. Today again, I ran it continuous for 3 hours. Nothing really happened, but again, I'm not really sure how long I can run it like that.
So,
I had a conversation with Gorba in the morning about running 2 compressors at 50% duty cycle. So run one for half an hour, then run another half an hour. I think that's a great idea for a 20 LPM system. I was talking to some people who are working with hospitals and working with the government to procure Chinese compressors. Sorry, Chinese क्या बोलते हैं, oxygen concentrators, the 5 LPM ones. But he's like, hey, if you can give me like a 20 LPM system that works for less than a lakh, then that's crazy.
But that's
So
exactly what we're doing, right?
yeah. So
Vijay, can you also check if the hospital can already provide you compressed air? Because that kind of solves a lot of your problems, right?
yeah, I will do so the thing is, the compressed air is again being used by your BiPAP machines, and then even the oxygen concentrators that they have installed. So all of the compressors already sort of utilized, but I will find specifically for the dry air um, at certain locations.
So what about Vijay? What about the 2 or 3 compressor in parallel, whatever in parallel kind of setup? Because apparently that works as well, right?
Yeah, so again, I was today morning, I sort of went through the entire TCS webinar.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
We all did.
so I mean, that was pretty informative.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I took back from that is the non-return valve, really. So with and without, the non-return valve really helps with stabilizing the pressure, the flow rate at the output. It doesn't really help too much other than that. But the 3L and also the placement of the oxygen sensor is important. You place the oxygen sensor before the flow meter, not after. That's when you can read like high values. So you need that sensor works under pressure. So you need to give it some amount of pressure for it to operate. Less than 2 bar according to the data sheet. So the 3 compressor thing in parallel, again, they're probably doing that to reach 300 LPM, because those seem like the 1 watt, 1 horsepower
Yeah.
compressors each. Now, doing that is great, but how long can you do that? How long can these compressors last? I mean, that is one way of using 3 compressors if they're able to last for a long time, or use 300 LPM compressors and run them at half
Yeah.
duty cycle. So again, I leave it up. I mean, I'm not really sure what is the best route to take from here. Anul, Gorbachev, if you want to sort of
Just to add, I mean, see, the day I figured I have to get compressors from China, I understood the biggest problem is going to be the compressors. I mean, you can't be dependent. I mean, they work, but I mean, it's very confusing thing if you're getting compressors from China and if you're not testing it extensively. So we need to figure out some alternate way to make a lot of air. I mean, like that is going to be the key, right? I mean, you need 4 psi and everything. Everything else is, I mean, we can figure out, but having those reliable compressors is going to be the key. So somebody needs to work on those lines as well, like getting those reliable compressors and.
Has anyone reached out to these guys in Pune called GAST? GAST.
Arjun, do you have your hand up for this one or something else?
Oh, something else. Sorry.
Okay, I think we should try, because apparently they are manufacturing a range which is kind of pretty similar. I'm not sure if they're manufacturing or getting it from China, but seems pretty similar to the California Air Power range, pretty much.
So anything in Pune, I can talk to them, Anul. Can you just let me know who is the?
Yeah, sure. Let me do that tomorrow or
Yeah, cool, cool.
the call today.
Yeah.
So just one
Hey, just-
input. Today I met a guy who had literally opened up the full 5 LPM oxygen concentrator available in the market. He had almost disassembled everything, the zeolite sleeves, the compressor and everything. And they found a compressor tank inbuilt. Basically, there is a compressor, small aluminum tank that is inbuilt. It is not directly the compressor. So they are maintaining the 70-30 ratio that is necessary for the compressor. So they're using a compressed tank. And if you see the Mr. Krishna in Hyderabad, I guess, who had developed the first oxykit, he also made a new design in which he has made a compressor air tank, that is the air before going into zeolite, for making that 70-30 compressor ratio. So we can look into making that kind of small tank, surge tank for the dry air, and then going into the zeolite.
So
70-30, you mean to say
a pretty big tank. Like right now we have a 50-liter tank, and we are drawing about 250 LPM. So actually the compressor, no matter what, runs continuously because the tank is always getting empty because we are kind of emptying it out so fast. So
That's exactly
you
what I
can
told
That's
Vijay in
the
the morning.
conversation we had in the morning.
yeah, so you can actually use a smaller horsepower if you have a large enough tank. But the other way around doesn't really help much. So
This is the same logic I also put in, but Krishna has also put in, and the commercial also has put in. So there has to be some logic, I think so.
yeah, I mean, in the sense that okay, so we have a compressor without a tank, and we have one with a tank as well. And of course, the tanked one works much better in the sense that it doesn't get too hot, it works continuously, and so on. But I think a bigger tank would probably help. 50 liters is probably not enough, I guess. Especially because we are working to get 20 LPM output, which means at least 200 to 300 LPM input. Which even a 300-liter tank would empty out in 1 minute.
Right,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Guys, I have a point to be added here. So, is it possible to kind of remove humidity before the compressor inlet, because the compressor heating up is majorly due to the humidity in the ambient air as well? Any ideas on this?
Actually, it might be a good idea to try it, at least not. Like if you put a desiccant chamber at the input of the compressor where it's sucking in air.
No, that will heat it up.
Sorry, it'll get heated up. Yeah, that's also true. It needs the moisture to keep it cool, really.
Also, the rating of that FR should also be taken at what pressure that they work.
That's true. Yeah.
And
okay, that reminds me, one of the things that is recommended is to try and use a HEPA filter on the input of the compressor, because eventually the oxygen is going to a patient. So once it passes through, I mean, you don't want the atmospheric, let's say, hydrocarbons or the particulates to go into the compressor and, foul things up.
So,
It's just a future safety precaution, I think.
so Vinod was suggesting like the corrugated pipes in one of our previous discussion, and I looked at it. So it looks like the air conditioning system and all, they also use, even oxygen concentrator use this corrugated design. Basically, I think they help in cooling in the conjunction point. So that is also something we guys can consider. I mean, like having some corrugated.
The thing with the corrugated fins is those always require additional fan cooling. Otherwise, those fins are useless. So we have some way to do that for sure.
Yeah.
And for the compressor inlet, I also received some kind of filter with the compressor. So I don't know everybody has it or not. I have some kind of black
It's
colored.
pretty standard. It's pretty standard, yeah.
So those filters also require some optimization. I mean, I think the standard ones, they have a lot of, I mean, it doesn't absorb. it is not optimized for noise. I mean, if they can be optimized with a longer shroud or something like that, and then it can reduce the noise. So
That's true. Some kind of a silencer would be handy over there. These are pretty amazing.
Guys, so is it also possible to use like a thermal expansion wall at the entrance of the compressor so that the air that enters is already like cooled down? So it
Before the
completely
compressor won't make any effect, because once the air is compressed, it is going to get hot again. So
Okay.
whatever cooling we have to do must be done after the after it comes out of the compressor.
Okay. But then I think right now the problem is also about the compressor itself getting hot, right? And
That's true. Yeah.
it
What do
damaging
you
the
think
motor and
about the
all.
two compressor idea?
So
I think it work,
yeah.
except that it adds to the cost, but beyond that, in terms of reliability, it would be much better to have 50-50 ratio of
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, like reliability, it's over engineered. It'll work, especially if you're doing 20 LPM. There's nothing in the market like that.
exactly.
People are ready to pay. I mean, like it in my mind, it makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I would lean towards a design that uses two of these with some kind of a. I mean, we already have an Arduino on board, so we can just put a little timer and a contactor that changes between one to the other at every half an hour or something.
Hmm. Okay, I think I'll do that. I'll pick up a couple of compressors because this is the one that's going to the hospital. So I'll pick up a couple of compressors to try it out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it that it should be so difficult to find compressors or pneumatics or PVC fittings. I mean, what kind of a
Can we work on improving the efficiency of the flow rate through the compressor? If keeping
Yes,
the
actually a function is the flow rate is a function, or at the output is a function of the flow rate at the input.
I had a discussion with the IISc people and all that. So they told me that they reduce the losses. You can work out with the pneumatics and all. You can work in that direction also.
not clear. Can you expand some more on what you meant?
So what they told me that like you were telling me now that there will be 10% loss. So if you are using a 200 LPM, so you get maximum 20. So that factor you were telling, we can work on that factor too.
Got you. Okay, make
Instead
the
of keeping that thing constant, we can work on those factors too, because we have a limitation in that end.
okay. Basically, trying to make it more efficient.
Yeah, the tubing. So what they told me that one of the factors that they told me that if you reduce the tubing size, it would get more efficient. The losses would be less.
Yeah, I mean, essentially in pneumatics, longer tubing means more resistance. So it's just like electronics in that sense.
Also, I would like to add something here. So I haven't been updated about you guys for 3-4 days. I had COVID. So this guide from the sourcing guy from where I purchased the pneumatics and all, he gave me a device that increases the LPM of the compressor to 3 times.
Okay, how does that work?
So it was only a physical mechanical device.
Okay.
I'm trying to find out if I have that, because for 3-4 days I have stopped all the work. So if I could find that, I could share that. So we can work on the same compressor, and we can attach some mechanical other devices so as to enhance its LPM.
Sounds like wizardry.
That'll be awesome if it works.
Sounds like magic.
Yeah. What is
Exactly.
this?
Who doesn't like magic?
So
Yeah.
what he was telling me, the companies that are purchasing stuff from him are also having this as they are also asking this. So I was going through that.
Either it is magic, or either Mani is like not explaining it well enough.
I hope it's
Sorry.
not, what is that? Zero power energy. What is that whole YouTube?
So what it does is it creates some vacuum and other. So it is a vacuum inlet, something of that sort. If I could find that out, I could give it to you in detail.
Oh, wait a minute. Is he using a really high speed turbine to compress and make it go faster? Something like that?
No, like, hello,
Okay.
hello.
So Abhi, where is this device connected? Is it connected on the
It
inlet
is
side
connected to the compressor output.
or on the output? Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't used it yet. So
Okay,
before,
so here's my guess. So once we know, let me see if I'm right. But apparently this sounds like some kind of a turbine in series with the output of the compressor. So it kind of compresses the air some more further, something like that.
So
Why
there are
was
some
it-
compressors
we were
like
talking about this,
the Tesla turbine. Tesla, what is it? Tesla turbine?
sort of. Weber, you remember Professor Neil was talking about turbine compression.
Yeah, something around vortex compression.
Vortex, yeah, using vortex.
I can share the link over here if somebody wants to research into this. It's quite interesting. If it works, then technically
Yeah.
the compressor by itself can sort of separate the moisture completely out of air.
Hey, those ones, you're talking about the cyclone ones, right?
Cyclone, yeah, those kind of ones, yeah. I think those are more for moisture separation, I think, not for creating more efficiency of the. Anyway, interesting. I want to keep us updated.
also there are few more concerns from my side.
Go ahead.
In out here, the situation out here in Delhi is like people are are getting 100 orders and they are selling it. So about testing, calibration, and all that, India is like we need to strengthen that. So if you could connect me to the right people, because out here in Delhi we are not facing that humidity issue, so that you guys are facing. So we are having that lead time, and many people are actually selling this, and I'm very afraid that they're not getting it certified, or the device are not calibrated and stuff like that. So I have concern regarding to that.
So there's a couple of different levels to this. At the very least or very minimum, what you definitely need to prove is the percentage of oxygen concentration you can give at a specific liter per minute. These are the two numbers that eventually matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, but you need to have correct
But
devices to calibrate them, na?
Yeah, but beyond that, there could be a lot of other things because if this device needs to be used inside a hospital, then hospitals may not use it unless it is certified as a medical device, which is a really, really tough, uphill, long, expensive road. So going that route might be, I think, impossible for most of us at this stage, uh, given the constraints we have. But at the very least, if the hospital can accept that this makes X percentage concentration of oxygen at Y liters per minute, if you can prove these two numbers, that's good enough. Now that can be done pretty easily. Like I said, if you have if you buy an off-the-shelf oxygen analyzer, which you can get certified at a test laboratory that is NABL accredited. So anyone like NABL, I mean UL or Intertech or TUV. Oh, there's so many. There's Bureau of Indian Standards. There's a couple in Pune. I mean, every city has these, in fact, or ERTL and so on. Any of these can certify your instrument. And once you have a certified device that can measure concentration, you can use that to certify or calibrate your oxygen concentrator. Same thing goes for the LPM meter. If you have a flow meter that's calibrated at an NABL lab, just use it to certify your product.
All
So
right.
that part of certification is not a very difficult thing to achieve.
All right.
And usually this is what
Have you heard of ICMED 13485?
sounds like a medical standard, but I might not.
This is the ISO 13485 that we are talking. This is the Indian version of that. That the this QCI, NABCB, and NABL in association with Association of Indian Medical Device Industry are doing.
Okay.
Anything about that? Can you connect me to people, right people for certification or all that? Is there a group? Because no one is active on that. Because we need to forward think about safety and all these.
So this ISO 14001 and related standards are for processes, man. So it's not for product assets. Like so.
No,
then
this is for
each of the
quality
lab-
management for medical devices.
Yeah, correct. But then
13485.
yeah, correct. But then that's more like the process of it as
Yeah.
well. Then each of the lab should be ISO certified.
No, for that quality management, we have ISO 900, 9000-2008. That are for the thing that you're talking about, the proper quality management system and all. But specifically speaking for the medical devices, we have this ISO 13485. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess.
So here's the thing, it's a deep rabbit hole, and there isn't really one standard that covers all. There are a lot of things that come into play. If it's a device that has electrical connections to it, and if those electrical connections are below 48 volts, it's a different standard. If it's connected to mains power, there's a different standard. There's physical standards, there's electrical tests to be done. I mean, it gets complicated pretty soon. So
Anul, all those are covered into this. So I was
I know.
reading the WHO report. So they have cited ISO 13485 for, and I even tried to purchase that. That was somewhere around $16,000 in order to
so we
purchase.
can't keep. I mean, these standards are pretty expensive, so that's another issue with them. Like I said, there's no really easy path to this whole certification rabbit hole.
Also, I would like to have a off-record discussion about this. If you could connect, I could tell.
Yeah, I mean, in your case, the easiest would be to, let's say, get in touch with a lab in Delhi who is NABL accredited and who can certify medical devices. And I'm sure there are several of them.
NABL is like 10 minutes away from my home. It's there in
Yeah,
Gurgaon.
but going there doesn't help. I mean, let me tell you. Okay, I mean, they are pretty much a government organization, so landing up at their doorstep won't help you much. The easiest would be to go to the NABL website and look for laboratories in North region or in Delhi which can perform testing on medical products. And that would be a starting point. Once you get that list, you can then start calling them up and asking them if they can certify a oxygen concentrator. That would be the next step. And then from then onwards, you can let us know how things go. If the lab can certify the product or how they can help you and so on. But NABL per se directly is not going to be able to help you in any way whatsoever.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, great. So should we close it? Do we have anything else to discuss just in the interest of time?
I'm done for the day. Dead tired.
Okay, done. So we'll call it a night. Thank you guys for joining. See you soon.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.